And so to kind of get on the topic, we've got nearly half an hour of like dancing around it, and it's finally here. So Antonio Brown, yeah. So gets traded to you guys for next to nothing, right? You obviously
Yep.
signed him for a big contract. Everyone around the league is looking at this like, oh my God, the Steelers got fleeced. The Raiders won out on this. You guys give him a ridiculous contract. And it's like, oh my God, like the Raiders just got one of the best wide receivers in the league, if not the best. And it's just going to be a complete game changer, right? You see him, you're excited for him. And then slowly but surely, like it just slowly like chips away of like, oh, he has an accident in which, he gets frostbite. And you're like, okay, like, it's a little ridiculous, but, you feel bad for him. It technically is an injury. And you're like, okay, that, it's not technically his fault, even though he didn't wear the white, but, I mean, like he didn't do that on purpose kind of thing. And then,
Sure.
you have the helmet debacle and you're just like, okay, like that's still a little bit more ridiculous. And he threatens not to play football over it. And you're like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, that's not great. And like it just slowly descends into complete and total madness. So I have to ask, what kind of roller coaster were you on? And at what point was it when he was actually released, or was it at a point earlier where you're just like, okay, if you never showed up again, that would be great?
It was, I mean, brutal. When we made the trade, I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it, and then I saw a third and a fifth, and again, I'm just thinking, you know what, this is. I remember at the time just thinking this is going to be looked back on, and people are going to talk about, the all-time lopsided trades, the Herschel Walker trade, or whatever, and this is going to be up there with those. I said we gave away nothing, and we're going to get a guy who, everything. Just talking from a talent and preparation level of what I had read about Antonio Brown up through then, this is a guy who, at least as far as I could tell from just a work ethic and practice and getting ready off the field, just seemed like he had that Jerry Rice drive where, this guy, he just works and works. Yeah, he's a diva. Yeah, he's one of those, wide receivers who wants attention. So what? I mean, there's, it's that is what it is, but the talent's there and the guy puts the work in. So, if he shows up and says a couple dumb things, so what? He's going to get, 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Who cares? They're going to have to scheme around him. Ty Williams is going to be lighting it up down the field because of this guy. So I was thrilled. He comes out, the foot thing happens, and I'm like, that's. I was more laughing about it because I'm like, typical Raider luck. We get this guy here, and now he's going to have to sit out half a camp. Okay, whatever. Then he first mentions the helmet thing, and I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, all right, he's just complaining about a helmet. It's not going to mean anything.
Sure.
And then I start reading things about, he says he's not going to play. And now this is probably me just as a Raider fan not wanting to admit that it was going to be an issue. But I was laughing, and I just remember saying, you know what, he probably didn't even say that. Here's what happened. He said, man, I can't even play without this helmet. I love it. Some writer overheard it. Oh, Antonio Brown's threatening not to play. It's not even true. And then after he had the appeal denied and then he wasn't showing up, that's the point where I was like, don't tell me this is happening. Come on. And I was still holding out hope for it. And then, I'm like, okay, he's coming fine. Mayock finds him. He posts about the fine on Instagram. And I'm like, whatever. He's just being a baby. I don't care. It's all going to be said and done.
Yeah.
And then he's not showing up again. And, now you're starting to realize that Mayock's had enough of him. And then once he came and showed up and gave that team apology, he showed up, he apologized. I said, okay, you know what? I don't care. He's been a pain in the ass. I don't care. He apologized. Now it's just about football, feeling good. And then the next day he's cut because he's throwing a tantrum online. Once he started throwing the tantrum and Mayock cut him, I was like, you know what? I was bummed, but I said, he doesn't want to be here now. I don't want him here. Good riddance.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, the hardest thing about it is it's very easy to say, hey, he doesn't want to be here. We don't need him. And everyone rallies around that and we feel good about it. But I'll tell you this, in the back of my mind, and I don't think there's a Raider fan who would be, any Raider fan who denies this would be lying, in my opinion. There's not one among us who thinks that if we had Antonio Brown, or doesn't think if we had Antonio Brown, we wouldn't be 4-1 or even 5-0. Every single Raider fan honestly believes that, and that's a little hard to swallow.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, like, listen, like you said, everything you said about Antonio Brown was 100% correct, right? Like, he's a pain in the ass, he's a locker room distraction, but at the end of the day, like, who cares, right? If as long as he's producing on the field, then you know what? He can go make every video under the sun. As long as it's not undermining the team, as long as it's not distracting other players, and as long as he's showing up every single Sunday, he's playing to the best of his ability, and he's doing well, great, wonderful. We're all set then. Like, we're all saddled up. But it got to a point where it was like, does this guy even want to play football anymore? Because, like, or does he just not want to play for the Raiders? Because, like, literally at the end, like, he's posting videos of, like, I'm free. Like, he was so ecstatic that he was cut because he was actually being held accountable for his ridiculous actions. And what kind of precedent does it set if Mayock doesn't fine him? It just shows that, you know, this guy can just run all over because he has the talent. And, like, that can destroy a locker room. And
here's a guy who, it was just, this is a guy who in 31 years of life had just never been told no by anyone. And you know what? When nobody tells you no until you're 31, I mean, how do you react to it? You don't even know what the word means.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And I mean, listen, I think the way that John Gruden handled it was absolutely, like, masterful. Like, literally, because he tried to give that guy so many chances and was like, listen, like, a lot of people are talking about how, like, ridiculous you are, and I'm telling you, like, I'm standing by you. Like, I just want you to play football. Like, we want you here. And, like, literally that phone call got posted on the internet. And it's just like, at what point are you like, okay, like, I'm done with you? And so he does his little fake apology, and then, like you said, like, he's cut. And then after that, you're like, okay, like, it's done now, right? Like, we're done. Then he goes and signs with the Patriots, and everyone's like, wait, what? Like, no.
I'll tell you the worst part. The day it happened, we were going some friends for the weekend. There's a nice little site right up the way. And we got there, my other buddy's a Raider fan, and I told him what happened. He just shakes his head, and I swear to you, he said, you realize this M bleeper is going to sign with the Patriots in 20 minutes, right? And I just said, yep. And so I wish I could say I was surprised by that, but we knew it was going to happen, and sure enough, we get back, and I'm like, yeah, here we go.
Yeah. No, so, it became like a league joke, right? Like, everyone was like, oh, Bill Belichick planned this, and then he actually got signed, and we're like, no, we were all kidding. Please, God, no. Like, please don't let this be reality, because this is...
I'll tell you this. If Bill Belichick actually masterminded this whole thing, then I don't care what anyone says. He's the most evil, brilliant man in football history. I don't even know if he could pull that off, but if he did, God bless him.
he's the evil empire for a reason. And
exactly.
So, and obviously, he's not in the league anymore. So at the end of it, and he's complaining on Twitter of how the league needs him, and everyone's just like, just go away, man. Just go. The XFL doesn't want you. Just go away. and
you know what the shame of it? I'm sorry, the shame of it for him, and then you can tell I have a lot to say about this, so I don't mean to cut you off. But the real shame is I look at this guy and I'm saying, look, the Raiders are trending in the right direction. This guy was only 31 years old. You know, the league is 30, used to be a dinosaur. Now it's, you know, clearly that's not the case as much anymore. And I'm just realizing, man, if you just showed up here, you could have even acted like a diva a little bit. But if you showed up here and just played, you had 3 years, $50 million. They probably would have signed it to a 2 or 3 year extension at some point in there. Like, man, you could have been part of what I believe we're seeing a Raider turnaround. You could have been a part of that. You could have been a guy that helped bring it there. If you were on this team for the next 5-6 years and you helped bring the Raiders a Super Bowl, you would have been a legend. I mean, anywhere you went that there were Raider fans, they would have dropped to the ground, and you could have walked on their backs down the street so your feet didn't have to touch the ground. They would have. That's people will when the Raider team eventually wins the Super Bowl. That's what the fan base is going to think of the people that got them there. You could have played 5-6 years, put up ungodly numbers, probably finished second in every category. I assume Rice would have still been one. And you could have made another $7,500 million, ended up in the Hall of... I mean, you could have just been one of the all-time greats and a guy that helped restore, you know, what was once the model NFL franchise, or at least one of the 2 or 3 model NFL franchises. And you threw it all away, and I don't understand that mindset. I just don't.
Yeah, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, like, at this point, like, people still ask me, like, oh, like, what do you think about what Antonio Brown said online now? And I'm like, I don't. Like, I just don't care anymore. Like, I am so beyond caring. I don't care if he signs with the Dolphins. I don't care if he signs with I don't care who he signs with. Like, I'm done. As long as he doesn't come to the Packers, I'm good. He can go sign with the Bears. That's fine. Ruin their locker room. But, like, I'm done. Like, like, we went through, in that, like, month period, like every single day, like there in that week period of that final week, like it was literally like news was breaking every 5 minutes. Like I remember like going on Saturday and being like, okay, I recorded an entire video about like the entire saga of him getting cut by the Raiders, and I'm sitting there and I'm editing it, and I have friends and my wife waiting upstairs because we're supposed to go somewhere, and I'm like, I'm literally about to hit like, upload, and then he gets signed by the Patriots. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And I'm like, well, you gotta do this all again. So like, I'm okay that he's gone because, yeah, I don't need that stress in my life, and I'm a Packers fan. I don't need that anymore.